Welcome, or welcome back. This is the Reddit Archive, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of Reddit. Before we begin, a big thank you goes out to our channel members. You can also become a member by clicking the join button and gain access to the uncensored versions of the videos without YouTube ads or sponsors. But if that's not something you're into, don't worry. You can also support the channel by making sure that you're subscribed and turning on post notifications. But enough of that, let's dive in. Our first post was uploaded onto the r/legal advice sub on August 29th, 2018 by a user who went by the name Difficult Path. My brother hacked into everything and is trying to control my life. I'm in my second year of undergrad at a state university in California, and I'm having an issue with my brother, who's in his late 20s and a computer engineer. This is relevant to my issue. As a side note, I know very little about computers other than basic Googling skills. My brother is a very type A person, very perfectionist and hardworking, often to the detriment of himself and others. He's a nice and positive person and is successful in the traditional sense, but he is very controlling and has a bit of an overblown ego. I'm a much more relaxed person, and the two of us share very little in the way of interests or guiding philosophies. I'm a visual arts major who likes to draw, and he's the type of person who watched Fight Club and thought that Tyler Durden was onto something. We get along but have hostilities. My brother resents the fact that I'm not like him and that I don't look up to him as a role model. He's very fond of mocking my interests, hobbies, career plans, and he often talks literally about a plan for me in which I change my major to engineering and start taking his advice. When he brings this up now over the phone, I stop talking to him for whatever amount of days/weeks until he apologizes and we do it all over again. 2 weeks ago, my brother made a joke referencing a piece of digital art I drew on my laptop. I didn't think anything of it until I realized after the call ended that I never posted that piece of art anywhere, not even onto any cloud service. It had only been available on my physical laptop. I was nervous and downloaded Malwarebytes, but it didn't find anything. Thinking back, I also recalled my brother making a joke about something I said to a friend privately on my Discord, which also was not publicly available. Checking Gmail and a few other websites I'm on that showed options, I discovered someone had been logging into my accounts from an unfamiliar computer, and had then been doing so for about a week. I called my brother about this and he laughed, and told me that he had remote access to my computer, and that he'd be checking up on everything I was doing from this point on. I told him that that was ridiculous, and he basically laughed and said that people today have no reasonable expectation of privacy anyway. Without going into detail, I've basically discovered that my brother literally has access to everything in my life. My bank account, school account, my art/chat accounts, all the files on my computer. He has even referenced information that leads me to think that there is a very good chance of him having a camera/microphone in my room. He has been in my apartment in the last month, and the only reason I think he might not is because I haven't been able to find it. There's nothing on my computer or cloud files or anything I'm even remotely embarrassed about, but the idea that my brother has all my information is terrible, and I want him to stop. I don't feel comfortable in my apartment or using my computer/personal accounts anymore. I'm writing this from my school's library. Is there any way to clearly show him that this is wrong with an amount of force, and guarantee my privacy in the future without getting him in serious trouble? My brother is an idiot, and I'm pissed at him for this, especially in the way where he acts like it's a joke or that he's doing it to mentor me, which he keeps saying, like he's called me knowing my class schedule, which I never told him, and reminded me to go to classes. But I don't think his life should be ruined over this, even if he is an asshole. He has also joked about dropping my classes, which I got really pissed at, and he assured me it was a joke, but I still feel uncomfortable that he'd even hinted that. Thanks. As we can see, the OP has had to take extra steps to use a secret account with the hopes that their brother won't find it. And from what we've read so far, it makes sense. In the post, they mentioned that they believed that they had some kind of malware on the computer, but a commenter by the name Leprechaun would provide the OP with more information into how their brother was remotely accessing their computer. IT guy here. It is important to note that if your brother is using normal legit tools to get remote access to your computer, that isn't considered malware. Consider malware as going in through the back door. Your brother might have gotten into your computer and set it up in such a way that he can just go through the front door using software which wouldn't be suspicious to Malwarebytes at all. software that behaves normally, that you can turn off, and will uninstall nicely if you want them to go away. Since these aren't viruses, you can just go into the settings and turn them off or uninstall them. You just need to know how to turn them off. There are built-in remote access tools in Mac and Windows, and there are tools made by other companies that can do this as well. I would recommend you see if the built-in remote access tool is turned on. Just search Remote Access Windows 10 or Remote Access Mac on Google, and then you will find a guide on how to turn it on. Just use that to check whether it's already turned on, and to turn it off. Search your computer for common remote access tools like Logmain, TeamViewer, AnyDesk, Chrome Remote Desktop, VNC Connect, or any other similar software. As long as he has access to your computer, he can basically get all of your passwords. So once you have done the above, change all your online passwords. This is good advice, as many people believe that in order for someone to gain access into your device, that there needs to be some kind of virus or malware involved. But as the commenter points out, this is not always the case. And while the OP stated that they did not want their brother to get into any trouble because of this, commenters on this post seemed to believe the opposite. Your brother's committing federal criminal acts. This is not a joke. This is not no big deal. This is prosecution would offer him 3 years if he was nice shit. You need to tell him in no uncertain terms that what he's doing is illegal, that you have no issue whatsoever reporting him to law enforcement, and that it needs to stop yesterday. And if he doesn't desist, you need to get a temporary restraining order and make a police report. Only 2 days later, on August 31st, the OP came back with a second post. Without going into a lot of detail, based on some of the stuff I read on here and a conversation with a friend, I realized that the way I viewed the relationship with my brother was incredibly messed up, and I decided to act more seriously about this. I was thinking about how to proceed last night while cleaning, and then I actually found the camera. I know I said I thought that there was one before, but I don't think I really consciously did. It was in my bathroom. I have gone to the police station, and for now I have an injunction against my brother. I also reported the computer hacking along with texts and a phone message he sent where he both alludes to and directly confirms it, so I don't know what'll happen, but I feel a lot better having taken this right. I appreciate the comments people sent. It helped a lot. Thanks. We typically let our family members get away with more than we do others, but even family can take things too far, and the fact that the OP found a camera in the bathroom of all places is extremely disturbing. It wouldn't be until September 8th, 2018 that the OP came back with a second update on the situation. Without exaggeration, this was probably the worst day of my life. After getting served the injunction/temporary restraining order thing, my brother 1. told my parents, and 2. chose to immediately violate it. He left me several messages that were essentially low-key threatening to ruin my life, and I was scared, so I reported it. He was taken to jail, and to my current understanding is going to get a type of misdemeanor charge for it, if he already hasn't. I don't know if he's in jail right now. I knew my parents were going to take his side, but they have effectively disowned me for this. My parents are very religious conservative Catholics. I'm not religious anymore, but they don't know that. And they were very upset by me reporting it. That's an understatement. I have enough scholarships where I will be able to continue paying for my living expenses/school with my part-time job. But the way they threatened me was horrible. They're very upset because this will probably screw up his college according to the talks we've had. They said I'm disgusting/not welcome home, etc. My dad sent me a video of him and my mom burning most of the belongings I left at his house. Not much important to me, but still. They don't believe me about the camera, and my dad said he specifically didn't care even if it was there. Just screaming the entire time. I stopped answering my phone and checking my email because it terrifies me. I bought a new cheap computer, because even though someone helped me wipe it clean, I'm honestly too scared of using the old one at this point. I haven't left my room in a week. The worst of it is over, I think, but I feel like I fell in a pit. I can't stop crying. Perhaps the most upsetting detail of this update is that the OP's parents practically abandoned their child in a time of need. Unfortunately, because this is the legal advice subreddit, this update was immediately locked because the OP didn't technically ask for any legal advice. So there are no comments or advice from any Redditors that I could include in the video. Though this would not be the same for the third update, which was posted by the OP only a month later, on October 11th. Hi, still in California. I'm having some new problems since my last update, and I'm unsure how to handle them. I'd like to say things have been good, but they haven't. I had to stop school this semester because I've become extremely depressed and couldn't handle the workload of both school, work, and some personal things I'm focused on related to my sexual orientation. Planning on going back next semester, I really can't focus on anything past work, and my life feels very empty right now. I need to leave the house more and talk to someone who isn't a customer. My brother is still in police custody and still in the process of getting convicted, which apparently takes much longer than I thought. My parents and a few random people their age who I think they have recruited for this have been continuously harassing me through various electronic means/random phone numbers, and been spreading rumors about me. I've been too depressed to deal with it properly with another restraining order/other thing, so it's just been easier to ignore. My main problem at the moment is that I'm trying to get a new job, but I can't because I need my social security number. When I broke it off with my parents and this happened, I had some of my important documents with me, but not the ones that college students won't use on a daily basis. Passport, social security, birth certificate. I'm embarrassed, but I didn't have it memorized. The last time I needed it, my parents sent me a picture, but I no longer have that in my texts. I called my parents to ask them to send it to me and tried to make it sound like I'd call the police if they didn't, and my father implied that he either burned them or would never give them to me. He didn't visibly burn them in the video he sent, but I don't know if that was everything. I have trouble talking to him right now, and I couldn't maintain it. I tried calling his parish leader, who I know, and he told me he'd talk to my parents about not giving me the info/harassing me, but it hasn't done anything if he did. Surprise, surprise. The only documents I have to prove ID are my permit and my school ID. I need more documents if I want to get a new social security card. I'm also scared of my parents having this information because I think they might try to mess with my life. I'm afraid that if I call the police, my dad will just claim that he never had it and burn the evidence/hide it forever. And then I'm screwed, without any way to fully prove my current identity to get new documents. I also want to change my name, and I'd appreciate it if anyone knows the best way to go about doing that, or if it'd be too much of a pain right now. Not that big of a deal, and honestly, I'm still lazy, but it would make me feel better if it's not a big thing. Thank you very much. The people here have been really helpful to me at a point in my life when I don't really have anyone to talk to or give me advice in regards to these types of legal issues. According to the Justice.gov website, destroying somebody's social security card is classified as a federal crime, which is punishable by up to 3 years in prison, a fine of $2,000, or both. However, the law also applies to the concealment of government documents, meaning that even if the OP's parents didn't burn the OP's social security card, the same penalties could apply. Commenters on this post would provide the OP with advice on the steps they should take to get their documents back. And around 3 months later, on January 9th, 2019, the OP came back with a 4th update. I just wanted to make this post because I think it's good to make a point about how the world actually works, and I don't like leaving things under the false impression that everything ended up being okay. The last 5 months of 2018 were the worst months of my life, because of everything that happened with my brother and me being disowned by my family, and my family's friends, and many other people who I thought I knew/respected. I ended up getting my documents back without too much trouble, but after that, everything has been a loss. My brother was not really punished in any substantive way. My parents have endeavored to protect him, and he basically got something on the level of probation. No jail time. He was fired, but has been hired again with a much better job, with a small private company, because of a connection with a colleague. He had various people call me up from unlisted numbers with vaguely threatening messages, calling me a whore or just breathing on the phone until I had to get a new number. Rumors have been spread about me to the point where I don't feel comfortable even talking to nice people I knew because I'm afraid they'll judge me based off things they've seen that aren't true. I'm still not going to be able to go back to college this semester because of personal and financial reasons, and I basically have lost all my friends due to either personal insecurity, severe depression, or the rumors. I don't leave my house outside of work, and I'm not taking care of myself in the way I should. I'm very grossly thin and pale, and I've been having very terrible dreams about going to hell and burning alive forever, which are driving me crazy. I'm not going to do anything dramatic, but mentally, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not trying to make this a pity party, and I acknowledge that I'm a big part of the reason this happened. in the sense that I'm not handling it in the most productive way. I'm not asking for help, but I wanted to emphasize how fucked up the whole system is. This is the second time in my life I've been put in this position, and my first time as an adult and someone trying to report it. And either way, I have been screwed, lied to, and watched the person who ruined my life get away and live happier ever after. Nobody cares about people who get violated, and I understand why they don't come out and report. It's all rigged. My brother, his girlfriend, and my parents are almost on a 2-week-long Hawaiian cruise right now, smiling and laughing, and I'm in my apartment still unable to sleep right because of all of this. Happy New Year. Enjoy your cruise. What a cool picture of the water slide. And again, thanks to this community at least. It was a big help in the early stages when I needed to get my thoughts together, and I really appreciated it. I hope everyone who was cool about it gets the type of life they deserve. Really. Thank you. Situations like this are why many victims of abuse choose not to speak out, but our OP story does have a conclusion, which they posted almost half a year later on May 19th, 2019. I moved to another state now. For the purpose of the final update, it doesn't matter. Things have settled for me as of 4 weeks ago, and I remembered a lot of people sending me messages and PMs, so I thought I would give a final update. Life isn't good in the sense that everything is perfect. I 100% absolutely do not believe in karma, or that good things happen to people who do good and vice versa with evil people, but things ended up working that way in this scenario, after all this shit. Long story short, is 3 months ago my brother was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he died about 2 months later, this April. We don't have a family history with this, and I found out about it more than a month after his diagnosis. Did not see him after his death, and whatever campaign he had to bug me with his buddies just stopped all of a sudden when he found out about it. So I guess he lost interest once he found out he didn't have much time. I don't know many details because I'm not involved, and I obviously didn't try to be, but he's dead. I'm glad. Felt bad about it for a day or two, and then just thought, no, I'm really done with it. The universe threw me one fucking freebie and I'm going to appreciate it. I honestly feel freer and happy, and I hope he died in as much pain as could be expected. My life is good right now. The past 9 months have been some of the worst times of my life, but things have settled into almost niceness. Uni is postponed at the moment and maybe forever, but I found a good job that I like in a much cheaper state that I like more, and I don't have to work a lot. I have plenty of free time now and I'm having fun with it instead of sitting in misery. Started drawing again and reading incredibly depressing online superhero novels. Also pushing myself to make new friends and going to look into therapy soon. Feeling alive again. I'm taking care of my health again and I'm not undereating anymore. My parents have reached out twice and I ignored them. Planning to do it again and forever. I hope they rot, and I don't feel bad about it anymore. I'm sick of feeling guilty. Sick of feeling sick. They're the fucked up people, not me. All I want to do now is hear about whenever they go and join my brother. I don't want to say my brother suddenly got cancer and died and that fixed everything and I'm happy now, because that isn't true. But he died, and I'm glad about it. And yes, it did make me feel happy, and I'm finding it much easier to be happy now. I wish I could say I didn't need luck to fix my problems, but whatever. Thanks to everyone who sent me messages and offered me types of help, even if I didn't take it. I had 4 one-time conversations with 4 people, and that meant a lot to me. Hope only nice things happen to you guys. Thanks again. Like one of the previous posts, this update was locked by the legal advice mods, but in a re-upload onto the Best of Redditors Updates subreddit, commenters would quickly give their opinion on the OP's parents. You know, the only reason the parents started reaching out is because the golden child died, and they're lonely and/or are worried about who's going to take care of them when they're older. While we don't know exactly how the OP's parents are feeling, especially after losing both of their children, this commenter does have a good point, and while some commenters believed that the OP may have been a little harsh with their parents, the majority seems to be on the OP's side. There are so many abuse victims that have to continue living their lives, all while they watch their abusers get away with their crimes and achieve success that they do not deserve. At least now, with the death of their brother, the harassment that the OP was receiving has stopped. Hopefully now, they are able to regain a sense of security and are free to live their life on their terms. This post comes from the r/Ghost Stories sub and was posted by a now deleted user on July 12th, 2021. Although posts on this sub can be hard to verify, It is meant to be a place where people share their true and creepy or unexplainable ghostly experiences. But as we'll see by the end of this saga, things aren't always what they appear. When I was around 10, I met a strange boy who seemed to appear from nowhere. Him and I became super close friends, but after about a year, he disappeared. I never found a way of contacting him again. Possible encounter? This is going to be a long one, so you'll have to bear with me while I try and explain everything. There's a TLDR at the bottom if you want to read that instead. Okay, so I was probably around 10 or 11 years old the first time I remember the boy turning up. It was in the middle of summer, and my friends and I were swimming in a lake in one of my parents' fields. I grew up in a small farmer's town, with a population of no more than 200, and so everyone knew everyone. There were 2 schools in the town, one for boys and one for girls. I'm not sure why they split them by gender, and I'm pretty sure both have merged now, but that's what it was like when I lived there. I'm going to tell you how I remember it happening, but my friend who was there at the time remembers it slightly differently than I do. So as I was saying, my friends, I think it was about 4 of us in total, and I were swimming in the lake at the bottom of one of my parents' fields. It was about a 15-minute walk from my main house. We had been playing there for a while when we heard someone calling to us. We looked over and saw a boy standing at the edge of the lake, completely naked. Once we noticed him, he shouted if he could play with us. He looked to be around the same age as us, maybe a little older, but not by much. He was super pale, like white pale. I remember being amazed and kind of jealous of his super bright green eyes. He also had shoulder-length white blonde hair, like Draco Malfoy blonde. I looked to my friends and we said yeah, and he came in the lake with us. None of us recognized him, which as I said was weird because we had all lived in this tiny town for our whole lives and everyone basically knew everyone living here. He introduced himself as Richard, but he said he prefers if we call him Richie, so we did. I remember asking Richie where he was from, but he would go all awkward and would never give a straight answer. Anyway, after a while more of playing in the lake, Richie seemed fun and I invited him to come back to my house for supper. He straight away said he would love to come, and my friend was like, "Don't you need to ask your mom?" To which Richie said something like, "Oh, she won't mind." Remember how I said Richie was completely naked? Well, that wasn't so strange. In fact, I'm pretty sure we all were. My friends and I were all boys, and we would skinny dip in the lake normally, so it didn't stick out to me when he first arrived like that. But what did stick out to me was when we got out of the lake and dried and dressed ourselves, Richie had no clothes with him to get dressed into, which I remember thinking was super weird, but he said something like, "Oh, I must have forgot to bring them," which again, I thought was very weird. Like, how do you forget your clothes? I wasn't sure how my parents would react to me bringing home a naked boy, so I gave him my briefs and my overshirt to put on. But yeah, it stuck out as very odd. My friends went back home and Richie and I went to my house. My dad was like, "Where's his clothes?" I just made something up. I'm pretty sure I said something like his clothes got wet, so he left them in the sun to dry. I got him some trousers to put on, and we ate supper, which I remember him having 3 or 4 plates of. As I said, Richie is a super skinny boy. I was pretty small and skinny at the time, but he was definitely more skinny than I was, so I was confused how he ate so much. Richie was super polite and sweet to everyone while he was at my house. After supper, I took him upstairs to my room, and we played on my Nintendo 64 together. He had never seen one before and was super amazed by it. At the time I thought he had never seen one because they were so old. This was 2010. But my family was poor and that's all I had. It started to get dark and I asked him if he wanted to sleep over. He was really excited by that and said yeah. I checked with my parents, but I knew they wouldn't mind because they were both super drunk. So we continued playing on the Nintendo 64 until it was super late. After a while, I said it was time that we went to bed as I was tired, but I don't remember him seeming tired at all. Richie asked if he could shower before as he had been playing in the fields and he was really muddy. As he was showering, I made my bed for us, and I put on a movie on the TV for us to watch as we went to sleep. Then I got into bed. Richie came in like 5 minutes later and was completely naked again. I was like, "Did you walk from the bathroom like that?" And he was like, "Yeah," and didn't seem to care at all. So even though I thought it was strange, I didn't say anything. He got into my bed, and I asked if he wanted any pajamas, but he said no, it was too hot. Which, to be fair, I do remember it being really hot that day. I had a Scooby-Doo movie on and he was really excited by it, and didn't know anything about them, which I guess isn't too weird, but looking back, He didn't seem to know any pop culture stuff at all. I mean, we were pretty behind the times in my small town, but we still knew most pop culture. I had slept in quite a lot the next day, but when I woke up, Richie wasn't in my room. I went and asked my mom if she had seen him, and she said he left early that morning after his parents rang our house. How they knew he was with us or where to ring, I'm still not sure. Richie had taken some shorts from my room because my mom said he couldn't leave without clothes on. I was a little disappointed he left without me, or at least without saying goodbye, or without leaving any way of contacting him again. He turned up again a couple days later when my friends and I were swimming in the lake again. This time, he brought clothes, but I'm pretty sure he only brought some briefs and a shirt with no pants, which again I thought was weird. Over the next year, him and I became super close. We were like brothers. Over the year, I asked if I could see his home or meet his family, but anytime I asked anything personal about him, he would go awkward and not want to talk about it, or he would just change the subject. But I could see it made him uncomfortable, so I didn't push him to tell me. He did tell me he was homeschooled, which I thought was cool because in my mind that meant no school. As I said, we became really close over the year. I felt like he was more than a friend to me. It's difficult to explain. It's almost like we clicked from the first time we met. We became close really quick, and I felt like I could tell him anything and he would always help and support me. He helped me through so many hard times, and he definitely encouraged me to be a better person. It was almost as if he could sense when I was going through anything. For example, when my grandma passed away, I went out into my fields to cry as I didn't want to do it in front of my family. But after sitting down in some random place, Richie turned up and sat next to me. He said some things that I remember helping me a lot. When he asked him how he found me, he said that he was just on a walk. Not too long after this, he just vanished. It had been a little over a year since the first time he appeared at the lake. It was around September the year after, so it had to have been around a year and 2 or 3 months. He never turned up again, never said goodbye, and never left a trace. I was massively upset. I really missed him. I would walk around the fields looking for him, and I would hang out by the lake where we first met, hoping he would turn up, but he never did again. I still don't know what happened to him. I've tried searching social media for him, but with no luck, and since he would never tell me that much about his life, I don't have that much to go on. I asked my parents what they remember of him, and they said they remember him being odd and that they weren't sure about him at first, especially how he had a tendency to strip naked whenever he felt like it. But they also said that he and I were inseparable, and wherever I was, he was sure to be there too. They said they remember me being heartbroken when he stopped appearing, and they weren't sure whether they should call the police about him being gone, but they never did. I kind of wish they did. I suppose this is a long shot, but if you're reading this, Richie, reach out to me. I'd love to speak to you again and get some answers to all the weird things about you. It's completely possible that there isn't anything paranormal about Richie, but it is definitely strange. After reading this post, I definitely agree with the OP that this encounter was very strange, but it doesn't strike me as something paranormal. Regardless, the OP was on a search for their long-lost friend, and the first commenter to offer advice was a user by the name ArtShare. Can you go to the local cemetery and see if there are any Richards that died young? This is not bad advice. However, at the time of this comment, the OP had not mentioned believing that Richie had passed away. But given that this is the Ghost Stories sub, commenters are going to lean more into the paranormal side of the investigation. Despite this, other commenters believed that Richie most likely moved away, or came from a very controlling and abusive home, and it wasn't too long before the OP came back with more updates. Update: I'm visiting my parents for a couple of weeks. I will search the house for any photos of Richie and I that I could share here, though with 7 older brothers and a lot of family photos, I'm not sure I'll find anything. Also, there is a fun day at the local church to celebrate the school's breaking up for summer holiday, as suggested by a commenter. I'm going to attend the coffee morning where all the old people who live in the village go, even if this means waking up at 7 a.m. I'm going to be asking around to see if anyone remembers Richie. I will update this thread tomorrow if I find anything. Thank you everyone for your help. Update 2. I have asked around at my local church today. No one seemed to remember Richie. I started to lose a little hope, but word must have spread around that I was looking for someone because an old lady, I'll call her Sharon in this, who I know, but haven't even really spoken to before, came up to me. She says she thinks she might know Richie's maternal great aunt. She's going to try and find the contact details for me so I can reach out and see if the great aunt has any info on Richie. Sharon says if Richie does belong to the family she's thinking of, then he would have lived at a cottage around an hour and 15-minute walk from the main village. She said the cottage is secluded with no neighbors. Sharon has no idea why they disappeared, but she said she isn't that close to Richie's great aunt. I hope this is good news. I might actually be a step closer to finding Richie again. I'll update with more news if I find any. I'm hoping that this possible aunt is still alive and hasn't changed contact details. Wish me luck. This was the OP's first real lead, and not long after, we got 2 more updates. Update 3. I have contacted Richie's potential great aunt, PGA for short, with no luck. I called the number that Sharon gave to me a couple times, with no answer, though I have left a message explaining who I am. I am sending a letter first class to the address that Sharon gave me as well, which should get there tomorrow or the day after. Hopefully the PGA is still living at the address and I am able to get some answers. In the letter, I also explained why I was interested in contacting her. I gave my phone number if she would like to call me instead of writing back. I will update as soon as I have anything new. Oh, and one more thing. I visited the cottage where Sharon thought Richie could have been living. The cottage is abandoned and run down. Seems likely that he could have been living here. It gave off massive creepy vibes though. Update 4. I have heard back from the PGA. I'll name her Jane. Someone suggested that I check if the number was linked to any apps like WhatsApp. It was, and I reached out to Jane on there. This seemed to do the trick, and she messaged me back relatively quick. After describing Richie to her, she said pretty confidently that she is related to Richie. This is where things take a bad turn. Jane hasn't been in contact with Richie's family for many years, but she does have the phone of Richie's older sister. I had no idea he even had any siblings at all. Jane insinuated that I won't find what I'm looking for when contacting Richie's sister. I fear the worst. It seems as though something has happened to Richie. Jane told me that Richie's sister will be able to tell me more, gave me her number, and then hung up the phone. I am incredibly anxious to reach out to Richie's sister. This could be the end of the search that has taken me so long, but I fear that it isn't the ending that I have dreamed of. I will update this thread once I know more. The OP's interaction with Richie's great aunt is very ominous, but this did not stop the search, because on July 16th, only 4 days from when the first post was uploaded, the OP came back with a final post that revealed the sad truth about their long-lost friend. This is an update to my original post from a couple days ago, which can be found here. Though my original post was only around 4 days ago, that's an eternity in Reddit time, so I'm not sure if anyone will even care about this update. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you who have helped me through this process and have helped me find closure on my childhood best friend and my first and only true love. This journey has been difficult. Many years I have searched for answers on where Richie is now. Sadly, it's not good news. Deep down, I think I feared and perhaps avoided searching for Richie in case this was the outcome. With the help of everyone here and so many lovely commenters, I tracked down a distant relative to Richie, who put me in contact with Richie's older sister, a sister that I did not know existed. For the sake of clarity, I will name this sister Sarah. Sarah helped put into context Richie, his odd behavior, his unwillingness to show me his home, and his disappearance. Sarah and Richie both suffered abuse and neglect at the hands of their father, who suffered with severe mental health issues and drug-related problems for most of his adult life. Their father was terrified of the outside world, and thus kept them secluded away in secret. According to Sarah, their father was convinced that the world was months away from ending at any given time. He was convinced that the devil was planning to take over his mind and body, and was convinced that Jesus had spoken to him and told him the only way to keep him and his family safe was to keep them secluded from the outside world. Sarah shared that their father would not often be physically abusive, which I suppose is some relief. Richie and his family would move often throughout his childhood, never staying in one place for too long as his father feared the devil would soon find them. Sarah said they were most likely moved in the middle of the night with no forewarning, though she can't remember the specific time they were moved from my town. This helps explain how Richie seemed to appear one day and disappear 15 months later. Richie passed away at age 15, around 2.5 years after vanishing from my town. Sarah struggled to go into the details of Richie's death, and I didn't want to push her into sharing something that was painful for her, though it seemed that Richie took his own life. Sarah told me that Richie would often speak of me and the time we spent together, and that all Richie ever wanted to do was come back and find me. Sadly, he never managed that. She said she thought that I was just imaginary. She isn't sure how Richie would sneak out of the house to meet with me, but said that their father would keep them locked in their rooms for days and sometimes weeks at a time. Sarah told me she has a collection of Richie's diaries, which I do remember him writing occasionally. She has offered to send them to me, which is lovely of her. She told me that a lot of the writing is about me, about our time together, about how he wanted to find me again so we could run away together. Again, she never thought I was a real person. Hearing that was so incredibly bittersweet. I look forward to reading those diaries, even though it will be incredibly difficult at the same time. She said she's glad that Richie managed to have an impact on someone on this world. I wish that I was able to express the impact that Richie had on my life. I wish I could tell Richie the impact he had on my life. I want everyone to know Richie. I want everyone to know what an amazing, kind, and beautiful person Richie was. This post is difficult for me to write. Deep down, I think that I resisted searching for Richie more in case this was the outcome. Sarah told me a lot more information, but I've decided to leave out most to respect her privacy. Sarah is away and safe from her father, which I'm so glad about. Again, I just want to express how thankful I am for all of you who have helped, for all of you who have offered emotional support. Thank you so much. Richie, I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. I'm sorry I didn't pick up the signals that you were in danger. I hope you can forgive me. Richie, you were the only true friend I've ever had. It's so hard for me to write this. I feel so sick that I didn't do more. Richie, I want you to know, you saved me so many times throughout my life. So many low moments in my life have been helped because of the memories of you. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you, the same way you were there for me. And just like that, the OP's search came to an end. But unfortunately, Richie was no longer with us. The living conditions that Sarah described do explain why Richie did not want to talk to the OP about his family. And unfortunately, the abuse had clearly taken its toll on him, causing Richie to take his own life at such a young age. Some commenters even theorized that Richie may not have been born at a hospital at all due to his father's isolation and paranoia, which could explain why the OP struggled so much to find any official records of Richie's existence, making him an actual ghost on paper. This story ends on a very sad note, but I like to imagine that the time Richie spent with the OP was a shining light in his dark world. Thankfully, his sister was able to escape the situation, but we can only imagine the things those siblings went through. It's not the conclusion we wanted, but at least now the OP has closure, and know that their ghostly friend Richie was in fact real. Hopefully now, he's resting in peace. That wraps up this episode of the Reddit Archive. If you made it this far, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Also, check out the Cold Coffin Reads channel for more Reddit content, and as always, thanks for watching.